Right.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Jitters, managing your first Apostille call and beyond. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the author of Sign and Thrive, How to Make Six Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent, and founder of Notary Business Builder, the Advanced Notary Mastermind. I'm on a mission to help you serve 1,000 more customers this year. Together, we can impact over 5 million lives and generate over $250 million in revenue for notary entrepreneurs. Are you in with me? This type of training is one of the ways I intend to do that because we work hard to make that phone ring. How we manage that call can turn a regular service call into an appointment, into revenue, and a lifetime customer. I'm here and I share the stage today with my friend, my colleague, and queen of the Apostilles, Judi Lawrence. You can find more on her at Lawrence Institute for Notaries. Judi, come on up. Tell everyone about you.
Hi, I'm Judi Lawrence. I am from the city of brotherly love from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My mission has been for the past few years and continues to be to teach people how to be apostille agents and to watch them grow and help them grow and support them as they grow. I love the business and I love my students. We have a lot of fun together. We do a lot of learning several times a month in addition to the course. And my mission is that all of you succeed because, as my website says, your success is my success. So I'll turn it back to Bill.
Yeah, love that. And Judi, one of the reasons I absolutely love your program is the amount of support you give after people graduate. So you answer your calls, you answer your tests, you have tons of support, your study halls, all that stuff to help people succeed. And I think that's just a testament to your mission. So guys, today's call, this is kind of the lowdown on how it's going to work. We're going to hold all questions to the very end. That doesn't mean that you can't ask them in the chat. You can't share information. In fact, I want you to do that. Share information, ask your questions, hear your perspective from your peers, share your experiences. But Judi and I aren't going to address the questions in the chat until the very end. We're going to have a live Q&A session. Judi and I both are here for the duration, so we'll make sure that every question gets answered. We're going to do a presentation. I have some slides, some fun slides, just to demonstrate exactly the skills that we're going to teach today, so you can manage your first apostille call or your 100th apostille call. Why is this so important? Because we're coming out of a super busy time, 3 years, where signings, appointments were falling from the sky, and sometimes it's easy to skip some of the refinement processes. And that's what we get to focus on right now, is refining our processes. So engage in the chat. At the end, I'll show you how to save the chat. So if you're on a computer, you can save all of the great content and the resources that are shared in there for you. We are recording this. The replay will be available on my YouTube channel, and we'll send that out via email as well. And that's it. All right, let's do this.
All right. I keep letting people in the room. So for those of you who are late, we're still going to be letting you in the room.
Yeah, beautiful. Let me just get my chat organized here. All right, beautiful. Welcome to Jitters. So I kind of touched on why this is so important. Why focus on such a tiny piece of the sales, the service, or the business process? And that's because when your telephone rings, your cash register dings. So every phone call is a chance to change the course of your business. And when you start approaching that ringing phone that way, everything can change for you. And in fact, with the apostille business in particular, there's even more reason to get super granular on how to manage these calls. And I'm going to ask Judi to describe her toothpaste theory to highlight that.
Well, my toothpaste theory is very simple. If you were a pharmacy, you would call and you would order some toothpaste. You would order some Crest and some Colgate and maybe some Sensodyne, and you'd say, put it in a box and send me an invoice, and the next day you would put it on your shelves. The apostille business is different. It has so many variables. It has over 102 Hague countries, 90-something non-Hague countries, Secretary of State offices, Department of State, embassies. It goes on. So why is the toothpaste theory? What does it mean? It means that's why it is very important that you learn the procedures. That's why it is very important that you learn where to send what. I see a lot of things and it says, just send it to the Secretary of State. But what Secretary of State? And is it acknowledged? Did you do the loose certificate? What is going on? And it all goes back to that first phone call, because to hook the sale, you need to know. And so what Bill is talking about, Bill and I talked about this a lot. It all goes back to the first phone call and handling it so that they know that you're an expert and you're going to be able to help them.
And that's exactly what you're going to learn today, guys.
Mhm.
So we broke down a basic call flow into three different parts, basically, just for simplification. Number one is you have your proper greeting, which we're going to go over here in just a moment. Number two is you do your information gathering and your demonstration of expertise. Sorry, I got to mute somebody out here. Judi, will you go on mute patrol for me?
Sure.
Thank you so much. And number three is sealing the deal. So these are the three things that we're going to get into detail today. So you have those strategies in place. Who is... All right, got it. All right, Judi, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so one of the things that's kind of ironic is how simple the phone answering process is when you consider how hard you work to actually make the phone ring. Think about all the things you do to make that phone ring. You have your Google business profile, but of course it's not just whip up a Google business profile. You've got to learn how to do that. You've got to learn how to claim your profile. You got to learn how to optimize it. And then if you start doing website development, do you have to DIY it, figure it out on your own, or do you hire somebody to do that at that expense? Think of all the platforms you have to sign up for, the social media posts, the consistency, all that energy that you put into that. Look at all the different directories. Maybe there's premium listings that you do on those directories at that cost and expense. Search engine optimization. You have to learn what SEO even meant in the first place. And then you got to constantly refine, because that's not a set it and forget it type of thing. You got to constantly keep doing that. Think of the thousands of signing companies you may have signed up for, the networking meetings, the membership organizations like the Bar Association, the Chamber of Commerce, all the outreach you do to your ideal customers, whether it's attorneys or escrow officers, all that work to make that phone ring. But most apostille agents, notaries, credentialed professionals, even small businesses of all kinds, they don't have a plan for when that phone actually rings. So think about this for a second. Think about what your customer is going through when they make that phone call to you. First, you're probably not the first person they've tried calling. They might be feeling frustrated. On the notary side, we make the joke that even with 4.5 million notaries in the country, you can still never find one when you need one. Well, the apostille agent is a lot less than 4.5 million. So there's maybe even more frustration, especially because there's not a plan in place. A lot of new apostille agents are intimidated to answer the phone, so they don't. So that's part of the reason for this training, to overcome that insecurity. But the second thing is, and this is huge, and this pretty much pertains to every single phone call that you're going to get. The person calling you has a problem that they need help with. In many cases, they've just heard a word they'd never heard before, apostille. I would venture to say that probably until, Judy, when was our first podcast on that 18 months ago?
About 18 months, 19 months ago.
I would venture to say that most people on this call had never heard of Apostille before 18 months ago. So your customers are in that boat right now, and not having this Apostille has caused a problem in their life. They need help. So solve the problem. You get to be the superhero in the transaction. Approach every single call as the problem solvers. But how do you do that? Well, we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to do some prerequisites, right? The first thing that you have to do if you want to solve a problem is answer the phone. And that covers the first greeting, part 1 of the 3-step phone call. Now, I know we're probably going to see some great comments in the chat on this, but you want to answer every single phone call that you can. And I know I've already seen a comment about it already, but this includes, and maybe especially includes, the calls that your phone has identified as a spam caller. Because those algorithms that decide what's spam and what's not are not always accurate. Sometimes they are, sure, but sometimes they're not. And I get an opportunity in the role that I play here to coach notaries and small business people across the country. And I've heard some amazing stories of how answering spam calls were actually dream clients. So every call that you can possibly pick up, you want to do that. And if you can't answer the phone, because you can't, sometimes you're in appointments, you've got a life to lead. You're not answering the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning usually, but you want to have a system in place for when you can't answer the phone. And that's going to be part of our bonus material at the end of today's call. We're going to have 4 or 5 tips on what you can do when you can't answer the phone. But when you do answer the phone, that takes us to number 2. Answer every single call professionally. Please say goodbye to answering the phone with a hello. Mm-hmm. You want it to be absolutely clear that who's ever calling you is actually calling a business or a professional that could solve a problem for them. Kick the habit of answering hello as a question, even in your personal business or on your personal calls. Because if you're going to kick a habit, your brain doesn't know, well, it's okay for this section of calls, but it's not okay for this section of calls. Just get in the habit of answering your phone as a professional, because if you don't know who's on the other end of that line, assume it's a potential customer. Answer that phone professionally. And if you do know who's on the other end of that phone because they're programmed in your phone in your address book, then answering hello like a question is unnecessary too. So you can answer differently. You can answer proactive, fun, something to let your personality show through. Hey, Karen, I was just thinking about you. How can I help? So in the chat, I'd love to hear how you answer the phone. I love to answer the phone. Hi, this is Bill. How can I help you? Or good morning. This is Bill. How can I help you? In the chat, please share how you like to answer the phone professionally. Judy, how do you answer the phone?
Oh, I answer the phone. Center City Notary. This is Judith. How may I help you? And my friends know, because that's what they hear. I rarely ever deviate from that. And I just want to go back for a minute and say that some of my really big, important phone calls have been numbers I never heard of. So I answer the phone. I take a chance. It can't hurt me. It's a phone call. And people appreciate, we're living in a world of press 1, press 2, press 3. If you call a doctor, they say, if you're dying, press 7 and we'll see what we can do to help you. You know, I mean, it's crazy. And so if people are calling, I can't tell you how many times a week I hear people say, I love you just because you answered the phone.
Yeah.
It's
Huge
true.
difference.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Think about the risk that you take by answering a call. If it is a spam call, if it is a robot dialer, what have you
Nothing.
lost? 2 or 3 seconds of your time versus the reward that you could potentially get if that is a client. That in the Apostille world, that could be thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
Think of it as a law firm. And get this. So law firms in particular, especially if they do collections, they get reported as spam all the time. But they're not spam. They're just a law firm doing their job. But the consumers report it as spam. So it may show up as a spam call, but it's a business. It's a potential client for you. All right, let's get back on track here. So you answered the call professionally. And I love all these examples coming through today. And I love hearing stories about how these change. So keep those coming in as inspiration for others on the call. But let's get into number 3, because this is huge. And I, in particular, am pretty sensitive to this. Watch your tone. When you answer the phone, use a tone of voice that suggests that you might actually want a new customer, that you might care to give good service, and not a tone of somebody who's just pissed off because you just interrupted the next episode of Yellow Jackets or Succession, right? I hear it all the time. And I want to touch on this because as the owner of a signing company, I make these calls. I've been blown away by the way the phone gets answered sometimes. The tone makes all the difference in the world. And if you have to, if it's not your natural predisposition to be enthusiastic, friendly, and warm on the phone, that's okay, because that's not everybody. But do this one thing. Answer the phone with a smile.
And answer the phone. And that let's get back to answer the phone.
Yep, exactly.
Answer the phone with a smile, but answer the phone. Every day I get 8 calls and they say, you're the first notary that answered the phone. I've been calling all day.
Absolutely. And that
Answer
goes
the
back
phone.
to
I know we're going to talk. I know we're going to touch on that, but I just wanted to say, answer the phone.
Mhm. Absolutely. And that goes back to what we just talked about is put yourself in your customer's shoes. They're frustrated. They've been calling around.
Mhm.
But your tone of voice sets the tone and builds the rapport, which we're going to get into in just a moment as well. So once you've answered the phone professionally, you've got a friendly, warm tone. Now it's time to give them your full attention. Why are we talking about this? Because I've had notaries answer the phone when they're checking out at the grocery store. They can't hear me. I can't hear them. They drop their phone in their purse. I can hear everything. They've got kids screaming in the background. They're distracted while they're driving. There's all kinds of levels of distraction. And it comes across rather unprofessional. So if you happen to be distracted by anything, it's okay to ask somebody to hold and then put them on mute so they can't hear what's going on in the background, and get yourself into a situation where you can give them 100% of your attention. That attention is going to be super important for the next phase of this call.
Bill, can I
Yeah,
just
please
add one
do.
thing?
Yeah.
No matter where you are, have a notebook. Have a notebook and a pen and a pencil. Or pen or a pencil, so that if somebody actually calls you and you're grocery shopping, you can say, I'm with a client right now. May I call you back in 20 minutes? Write down their name, write down their phone number, and then if you have to, excuse yourself and go find a quiet place and call them, because that could be your next big client.
Yeah.
And your clients are going, when they know you, after you've worked for them a few times, you can say to them, oh, I'm at an event, I'm doing something. Okay, if I call you tonight around 7, I know, and 9 times out of 10, they'll say, sure, because they already know you. They know you deliver. But this new person that's looking for you, you have to show them that you can deliver. And you do that by, if you're in a crowded place, get your little notebook out, write down their name, write down their number, go find a corner, call them back and see what they wanted. They may have won 10 apostilles.
Yeah. One of my favorite ways to do this, because if you're driving, sometimes obviously you can't be taking notes while you're driving.
Right.
So one of the ways I would do it is I'd answer the phone professionally. I'd hear what they have to say, and then I'd let them know, I'm going to pull over in about 5 minutes. Do you mind if I call you back, or would you like to hold? And I can put them on mute if they want to hold, or I can call them back in 5 minutes when I've pulled over or in a safe place, to give them the full attention and take notes so I know how I can help them. So when we do that, when they have our full attention, that gives us an opportunity then to take gentle control. And this is where you do your information gathering and the demonstration of your expertise. And we can take gentle control. This was a term that I learned from Carol Ray for taking control at the signing table, but it applies to these phone calls as well. The first thing that you want to do is, you know how these calls go, right? They're going to ask their first question: how much, how fast, where are you? Or how does this work, right? The first thing you want to do is just relieve that pressure around that first pitch. And one of my favorite ways to do that is to simply say, hey, I'd love to help. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions to make sure I'm the right person that can? And very few people say no to that. And that leads us to number 2, which gives you an opportunity then to integrate your personality, your professionalism, your warmth all throughout the call, so you build rapport. People work with who they know, like, and trust. And as Judi always says, people want to know that you care about them. This gives you an opportunity to do that. And in order to build that trust, you have to demonstrate your expertise. And the best way for you to demonstrate your expertise is actually to ask probing questions. So Judi, this is where you really shine in your expertise. So can you share some of the best questions that an apostille agent can ask a caller to help guide the conversation and demonstrate their expertise?
Well, I think there's a few things. There's a few ingredients here. As I've told you many times, you do want them to know you're a business. You're there to make money. They know that, because you wouldn't be in business if you weren't there to make money. But you also have to have some compassion, some empathy. If they're upset because nobody told them they needed this document, and now they need it because it's really critical to mom or dad or something else, you kind of have, I mean, it's either there or it's not, but I do anyway, kind of have to care a little bit and say, well, let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can help you. And then one of the most important things is under promise, over deliver. Under promise, over deliver. Do not tell them that you can do something for them that you can't do. I mean, we get excited and we think, oh, this is a big job and I'm going to make so much money and all that. Well, you're not going to make the money if you can't deliver the job.
Got it. Sorry, Judi.
You're not going to make the money if you can't deliver the job. So I always say, under promise, over deliver. If you really think that the job is going to be finished by Thursday, tell your client Friday. Tell your client Friday, and then call them up on Thursday and say, I'm really excited to tell you this, but we got your job all done. And you will have a happy person on the other end of the phone. And there are many other things, but I do want to say something else that maybe might not make me real popular, but it's a fact. If you can't get the job done and you promised you would, so you promised them and something happens and you can't deliver it, and they have to leave the country, because some of these people do have to leave the country and they're waiting on these documents and they've got to go, then you have to eat the shipping. And you have to say, I am so sorry that I was unable to do what I said I would do. And because of that, I need an address where you're going to be, and I'm going to ship those documents right to you. Because the most important thing, and I think Bill touched on it, but I'm not sure, is I may be ahead of myself, but the most.
I think you jumped to the next section on this, Judy, but this is so
Okay.
great. This
All
is
right,
great.
you go back. Okay.
No, this is great. Keep going. It's part of integrity. All the way
Yeah,
around.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. I mean, the most important thing is your word must be your word. If you want clients to come back and you want clients to use you over and over again, then your word has to be your word. And if you can do that by analyzing the situation, just take a look at it in totality. And if you need a courier to get this job done, then before you promise the client that you're going to get it done, get a hold of the courier and make sure that the courier is available to get it done. And if that courier is not available, try a different one. But under promise, over deliver, because the name of the game here is repeat business. That is the name of the game. Everybody that needs an apostille once is probably going to need it twice or even 10 times. You don't know. So this is the name of the game.
All right, Judy. I'm gonna stop you because you've gone so far ahead. You've already given.
Okay, I'm sorry. I always do that.
So I'm gonna rewind. I'm gonna bring us right to this slide right now, where we're only asking about probing questions. So what are some questions that an apostille agent could ask a caller to help them get a better understanding of the full situation?
You would ask them, where are your documents coming from? I have 5 children. Well, where were your children born? So you need to know that. Maybe all 5 children were born in 5 different places. So you need to know, where were your children born? Where are you going with this? What country are you going to use these documents in? What's your time frame? What's your time frame? Do you need them last night? Or is next week okay? Then they might tell you what their budget is. And then sometimes it's okay. And again, you use your judgment. Sometimes it's okay to ask a personal question like, well, I see this power of attorney, and I hear your urgency. Is mom okay? And if they say, well, no, mom is not okay, then you might want to say, well, let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can expedite this and get this done a little quicker for you. You will learn as you go along. You know, Lori Ham always says, when she's in any of my rooms and she talks to new apostille agents, she always says, experience and time. So you need the experience and a little bit of time, and then you'll gauge what is really going on. I always ask them, are you in the area? Are you on the phone? I always say to them, are you in the area? Is it possible that we can meet? And most of the time, I will tell you that I think 75, 80% of the time, they come meet me the same day. And there's a reason why. Because as Bill said earlier, they never heard this word before. And now somebody told them this morning, the lawyer told them they need this thing called an apostille, and they can't get the job, or they can't get the house, or they can't get the property. They can't sell the property in Spain, or they can't do something because they can't get this document. So they are anxious to come and see what it is, what it's going to cost, what does it look like? Big question, big question. What does it look like? What does an apostille look like? So take an apostille if you want to, have it laminated, put it in your bag, and show them. This is what it looks like. This is what you need. The simple answer is, this is what you need to be able to do what you have to do in whatever country. It's as simple as that. And those are the kinds of questions that I ask.
And Judi, so there's 3 other questions that you had talked about earlier that I want to mention too, including the most basic. And tell us why this is important. So you say you have to ask their name and the names of others. Why is that so important?
Right. You have to ask not only their name, but you have to ask the name of anyone else involved in the transaction. The reason for that is that often mom's bringing in a birth certificate for her son. And the order is under mom's name, but the son starts calling to find out where is his birth certificate. And so if you have all those names on your tracker, then when the son calls, you know right where it is. It's very difficult when you're doing a lot of volume. It's sometimes difficult when the documents come back. You want to place them with the right person. It's a very good question to ask if you are doing something. Birth certificates are the big one, and diplomas, because often somebody's coming in, they're bringing a diploma for a friend, and they will bring the diploma in, but you want to know that when the person calls, you want to know who that is. I think the worst thing is when somebody calls and says, I just want to know the status of my job, and you're going, you want to just get on that phone and you want to answer their question, and you want to be proficient, and you want to be professional, and you want to make them feel that they were the only person that was on your mind. That's the trick.
Judi, that was great and so important, so basic on the names, but it's so important. The other one that you often ask, I saw this on your list of questions as well, is, are the documents already notarized if they require a notarization, right?
That is true. Are the documents already notarized? Because many people take their documents to a notary who does not know proper notarization, meaning it needed a loose certificate, it needed an acknowledgement, it needed something, and when they bring them in, it has nothing. And so therefore, that presents a problem. And when you ask them, well, do you know the notary? Can you go back to the notary? They don't. They went to the bank, or they went to AAA, or they went somewhere. So you want to ask them, and I often ask them, could you shoot me a picture? Could you scan or text me a picture so I can see the notarization and I can see if it's correct? Because that's another good way of ingratiating yourself to a client, is not making them come, then the document's not right, then they have to leave, then they have to come back again. Everybody's busy. So a lot of times people are real happy to shoot you a picture, and you can then look at it and say, this is good, or this won't fly.
Well, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the number one reason for apostille rejection is an error on the notary's part. Is that correct?
According to someone in the Secretary of State's office, who may or may not be here, the 64% of the rejects are for improper notarization. Now, I'm not going to say that that's all bad notaries, because I don't really believe that. I think that some notaries work as a notary for their W-2, and they only know what they need in that job, and they never learned the rules or the laws, or they never learned about acknowledgements or loose certificates. I was one of them. I was, because I worked for a law firm, and my whole job as a notary was to go upstairs and do estate planning. And that's when they called us upstairs. That's what they called us up for. I learned everything when I went into business. I took courses, I learned everything. And there is it's a problem when someone's in a hurry and they want these documents apostille, and they're not properly notarized, because no Secretary of State will take them.
Yeah. Great. So that just highlights the importance of this whole process.
Mhm.
So Judi, we threw a lot of questions at them, and now one of your biggest recommendations is to have an onboarding form, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is new. This is our new one, which I've been promising to everyone. And I ask a lot of questions. As Bill said, I ask last name, first name, name of other parties or signers, address, email, phone. Do you like calls, texts, emails? Where are your documents from? Where are they going? What's the number of documents? Ask as many questions as you can. Get as much information. And sometimes when people say to me, why are you taking all this information? I say to them, because tomorrow, when I'm processing your job and you're not here, I need to remember every detail of this transaction. And they go, oh, okay, that's good. You know, because they want it done and they want it done correctly. So I think that this is, I have a brick and mortar business. So we have, whether the client's going to pick up the document or whether you're going to use FedEx, DHL, USPS, or other. You know, mobile notaries may not need that so much. And again, this is just something that I use in my office. Feel free to look at it and make as many changes as you want to accommodate your own practice.
Yeah, use your phone to take a picture of this if you'd like, so you can edit this on your own. I don't think Judi sends this out, do you?
I am now. I didn't because we were changing it.
Ah, great.
And so I did send a few people today who have been asking for it, and I will send it out now. I didn't send it out before because we changed the whole thing around.
All right.
Mhm.
So, and of course, this is a 2-page form here that Judi has for the payments and the signature, because she's got that in person or brick and mortar
Mhm.
location as well. And we'll work on getting that. Now, Judi already talked a little bit about this earlier, but setting proper expectations. So you can see the importance of systemizing your process. When you systemize and you've got the intake form, you ask consistent questions every single time, and you ask those probing questions, it allows you to have the full scope of the work involved so that you can set proper expectations, and you can move on to step number 5, which is where you quote the full scope of the work and you stack your value. So what's that mean? Now that you have this great understanding of all that's involved, what does it mean to quote the scope and stack your value? It means basically repeat back everything that's going to be required of you, including the timeline, to demonstrate and show the value that you're bringing to this transaction and to this relationship. And then you quote your price.
So
The
you
trap is, and Judi, I'm going to pass it over to you in just a
okay.
minute. I'm going to ask for an example here, but the trap is, guys, customers call and say, how much is an apostille? And you just say the price of the apostille without understanding the full scope. And then it seems like it might be a high price for them. But when you have asked all the probing questions, you develop the rapport, now you have an understanding, you quote the scope, and then you stack your value. You can do this, 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 and my price for all of this service is only this price. And I'm going to ask, Judi's mastered this in her practice, in her office. So Judi, can you give us an example of what this looks like in practical day-to-day life?
Sure. You say, okay, you've given me 10 documents. I see 3 of them are for Hague countries, and I see the other 7 are for non-Hague countries, and that's okay because we can process them all. I see that you need them in 2 weeks, and I think 2 weeks is adequate time for us to get that done for you. I am going to need some translation, and I can do that for you. I can get that done, and we can get that done, and then we can get your documents apostille with the translation. We pay for your filing fees. We pay for your notary fees. We pay everything. It's all in one fee.
A one-stop shop, right, Judi?
It's a one-stop shop. And for that, it's only whatever it is. And what have you done? Here's what you have done. And Bill and I were talking about this earlier. You just made yourself the expert. You said, I can do all this for you. So yeah, you don't have to go looking for a translator. You don't have to go looking to get a ride to go up to the Secretary of State. You don't have to worry if your documents are notarized properly. You don't have to worry about all these things. We can do it. We do it here. This is what we do. And you've made yourself the expert. And I will tell you, most people, not all people, but most people, even if they had a thought in their mind of doing it a different way, if you present it like that, they're yours. You will make the sale. You just have to, as Bill says, stack your value. And, if they ask for translation, you say, I got a translator that I work with and they're really good. And I can get those documents over there today. They work with a scan. So when the scan comes back, we can do this. And by the time you're finished, they think they would have to do all that. They don't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to do it,
You
And
really,
so-
you highlight all this different steps in there and all the problems that you can solve, because they don't understand the process. Now they have a better understanding and they're clear they don't want to do this usually. And the important part is once you quote your price, you got to seal the deal, right?
Yeah.
You've got to get the sale or set the appointment. And how do you do that? How do you seal the deal? We got this down in 3 easy steps, guys. Remember first that every single call could be a sales call. So the first step you have to do is you have to overcome the objections, right? Judi, what are the 3 top objections that you hear?
Top objections. And if there's anybody in this room that's very experienced, I know you will agree with me. Price, that's too much. How come you charge so much? So I don't want to pay that much. First objection. Second objection, it takes too long. I needed them yesterday. I needed them last night. I can't wait 5 days. And I just can't. And third is do it yourself. I can do this myself. I have a cousin who lives in Harrisburg. I'll take a ride up. I'll get it done. I'll bring it back. These are your objections and you need to address them.
So
And
Judi, what's your recommendation for overcoming the price objection?
I overcome the price objection is the easy one. You let them know all the things you're doing for them, just like the last slide. You let them know my couriers go up every couple days. I can get this translation done. I use a translator. It'll be done and it'll have a certificate of authenticity attached to it. I can do everything you've asked me to do. And by the way, your children were all born in different states. So I, got to go to 5 different secretaries of state and I've got to get this done for you, but that's no problem. I can do it. It's just, this is what it costs to do it.
I love that. And so what about the time constraint issue?
The time concerns are a little bit more difficult because sometimes it's out of your control. So for example, if you're sending a document to Michigan and Michigan takes 5 days to turn it around, you can't really do that unless you use a courier. And sometimes the courier has to wait the same 5 days before they can go back and pick it up. So time concerns are where you must be honest and truthful. You must be honest and truthful. Hear those words. You cannot, just because you're excited, and I'm the most excited person. I get all excited when anybody walks in. But just because you're excited and happy because you see a big job, you don't want to say, oh, I can do that. That's fine. Maybe you can't. Now, maybe you need to get another notary to work with you. Maybe you need to engage someone in that other state and you'll only make half as much. But isn't half as much better and keep the client than making nothing? Because the client says, no, I can't wait that long. So sometimes it's good to know your colleagues and find your colleagues, find the right people and say, hey, I got a great job here. It's in your state. Can you help me?
Yeah, that's the power of a great network. So what about this is a common one too. And I think you already kind of touched on it with stacking your value and painting the picture, but the DIY question, I can do it myself.
The do-it-yourself is they are taking the risk. And that is how you tell them, but you tell them in a nice way. You tell them that's going to be risky for you, because if you decide to do it yourself and you drive all the way and you take a ride and you get up there and it's been done incorrectly, then you have to come all the way back and then you have to get it fixed and then you have to go all the way back and then you have to come all the way back again. And when people hear that, they say, I think I'd rather you do it.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather use you. And some people do not. Some people say, I'm going to go do it myself.
I think we have to be okay with that, right, Judi? You can't help everybody. Some people, there's just no over.
And I don't hard sell those people. I smile and I say, if it doesn't work out for you, I will be here and please feel free to come back.
We got so many questions about the intake form. I just want to address this really quick, guys. You don't have to type your email address in there because I won't see it. I won't send those out individually, but we're going to work with Judi to get that intake form sent out to everybody who registered for this webinar. So
It's okay.
trust me,
We can
we're
do it.
working on it. We'll get it. We'll get it out there.
We can do that.
All right, guys. So this is awesome. Overcoming price objection is huge in business 101. Every time that phone rings is a chance for you to change the course of your business. So that's number one. Number two on sealing the deal is to actually assume the sale. And a lot of time, well, the key to this and the reason for this is that the customer had a problem. They're not just calling and chit-chatting about apostilles, right? They've never heard of it. They've got a problem they need solving. So they're going to hire somebody more than likely. And you want that person to be you. You want to assume that it's going to be you. So you use language throughout the call. And whenever you quote your price and you ask for the sale, which we're going to get to here in a second, you assume they're going to say yes. You're almost surprised that they say no. The challenge that we have as apostille agents, as notaries, and loan signing agents too, is that sometimes we get jaded. We get jaded because we answer the phone and it seems like everybody is price sensitive. We think that they don't want to pay for anything. And here's how you know if you're jaded. You start complaining. And you start using words like, no one wants to pay. Everyone expects a free service. The most dangerous words in this business are going to be no one, everyone, never, and always. So if you find yourself using language like that, shift your perspective and remember that every single phone call is a potential lifetime customer. And that brings us to number three, which is the most simple part of the whole thing, right, Judi? It's just simply asking for the sale. Once you quote your price, you can say things like, how does that sound, Mr. Jones? Or will that work for you, Mrs. Smith? Or if that sounds good, Mrs. Smith, I'll be there. I'll block out time at 7 p.m. to meet you at such and such place, or you can come to my office, or I can meet at your house. Ask for that sale. Judi, how do you ask for the sale?
I ask for the sale by telling them what I can do for them. And then I ask them if they have questions. And I'll answer any questions they have. One of my little tricks, which I was fortunate enough to come up with a while ago, is sometimes they're nervous about leaving their documents with you. You know, they've got these documents that, you know, it's their children's birth certificates or their diplomas and things that are really meaningful to them. And they're leaving them with you and they don't know you. They've never seen you. The only thing they know about you is you got some good reviews on Google, but they don't know you. So one of the things I do if it's a small job, I say, now, I will tell you, I deliver, you pay. You don't have to pay me anything until I give this job back to you finished. And you can see they feel better because you're not taking their money, taking their documents, and they're afraid that they'll come back and they might never see you again. And so that works well. I would not do that if I had a big job and I had to lay out a lot of money and costs, but for for one or two apostilles. And I find this, especially with older people, because they're a little more nervous about, younger people seem to take it more in stride because they figure you've got my documents and what are you going to do with them? But those are some of the things that I do. I also, and I say this in all of my classes, do not say to the person, or I suggest you not say to the person, okay, well, think about it and get back to me. And when you make a decision, I would never close my call like that. I would say to them, would you mind very much if I called you in a couple days just to see whether you have any questions or what you're thinking about? And they always say yes. Now, remember, sometimes you're talking to the wife and she has to go talk it over with a husband, or sometimes a boyfriend with a girlfriend, or whoever. Sometimes they can't make that decision on their own. And so, but what you don't want to do is turn it around and say, well, just give us a call back if you're ready. Because you've left that door open for them to call someone else.
Yeah.
But when something psychological, when you say to someone, I understand you don't have all the documents yet. I'll check back with you like on Friday, just to see if you have any more questions or how you're doing. They never say no to that.
Yeah, that was gold right there, Judi, because that's talk about going the next level, the extra mile to maintain connection and control of the communication. It's so passive to say, yeah, just call me back. Especially when
I'll
it's your
get
first
back
call,
to me.
Judi, right? You're
Right.
almost like in this hurry to get them off the phone anyway, because
Right.
you're so nervous. You're like, oh, just give me a call back. But
Yeah, let me know. Let me know. Give me a call back sometime when you're thinking about it.
yeah,
And that's not how you get the job.
yeah,
You get the job by saying, sometimes, as I said, sometimes they have to talk it over with mom or dad or whoever, and they just can't make that decision at that particular moment. But if you feel that you've impressed them and you feel you had a good rapport, as Bill said, very important to build that good rapport. And if you ask them, is it okay if I get back to you? Absolutely. Another thing that I want to say is, if it's a good job, I mean, if somebody just calls and says, how much do you charge for an apostille? Okay, thanks. And they, that's one thing. But if it's seven apostilles or 10 apostilles, and it's a worthwhile job, keep a record of it somewhere. Write it down or use my form, which you'll see soon. Use my form. Keep a record of it so that when they do call back, you can say, oh, hi, yes, I do recall that. We talked on April 4th, and I know you have 8 jobs, that 8 apostilles that need to go to Germany. They are impressed.
yeah.
They are impressed. You talked to so many people, and yet you remembered me. It's a big deal.
That's huge. And that's another value of that intake form, because even if it doesn't turn into a sale right then, it could be a couple days or a couple weeks down the road. Love that. All right, guys, this is great. We're coming up on the hour, so we still have some great information here for you. So we're going to keep going. So once you ask for the sale, you secure the appointment. Always important to say thank them for their business. You say goodbye, and then this is huge. Now that you've set expectations, you maybe made some commitments for yourself. It's so important to deliver on your promises and renegotiate the promises you can't. So Judy's already described some situations where things may not go according to plan. In the apostille world, in particular, right, Judi, there's so much that's out of your control. Secretary of State delays, you could have other country delays, you could have state delays with all kinds of documents. It's so important to renegotiate and communicate when things don't go according to plan. Judi, do you have some specific?
Absolutely. Most important thing, call the client before they call you. Call the client before they call you and just apologize and say, I know we said Wednesday, it won't be till Thursday. And you saw all the snow on the ground yesterday, and I couldn't send a courier up to Harrisburg. It was treacherous road conditions, and the Secretary of State was closed. There's nothing they can do except appreciate the fact that you called them to tell them. And I really do believe that if you contact the client and you talk to them in the right voice with the right tone, as Bill was saying, and you communicate with them, they'll be okay for a day or two. Just not okay when they're expecting everything and they call the office and you say, oh, well, yeah, but we didn't get that. That's not here yet.
That level of proactive communication goes a long way. And this goes back to what we had talked about a little bit earlier, guys, is put yourself in the customer's shoes. They're in the dark on this entire process, right? I remember when I was renting cars on Turo, I knew as a customer of Turo how frustrating it was to be packed up, flying into a new city, trying to find the car where it was parked and located, how to access the car, how to start the car, all of this stuff. I was trying to fumble in an app. So when I became a host, I over communicated. I created sequence of text messaging in the app that was clear. So somebody could really quickly, I know they're busy. I know it's hectic on a travel day. So I just made it easier for them. This whole process, and Judi has a great story about this too. Judi, you want to share that story about the gentleman that came in hugging all his documents?
I will. I was telling the story to Bill. So, and some of you have heard it, probably if you're my students, you might have heard it, but I had a very, very nice man come in. Maybe this is about a year ago, and he was hugging a bag of documents. And he said, I just came back from Harrisburg and all my documents were rejected. And he looked like he was going to cry. And I said, sit down. And we talked about it. And I said, why did you go to Harrisburg? Why didn't you use a service who might have been able to get this done for you? And he said, because I was afraid. I didn't trust anyone. Well, it turns out he is a prominent radiologist. And in that bag that he was holding so close to his heart were letters from people who had taught him and deans and all kinds of things. And he knew for a fact he could never replace them. Sometimes those people, you can never find them again. They die, they move on, whatever. And so we sat down and we made a plan and we did all of his documents the right way. And he knew that he was going to have to pay for it. And he did. And the next day we took them up to Harrisburg. Everything went through just fine. And I have a friend for life.
Yeah.
I mean, he's my buddy. He's my friend. But you don't know. And this is why in the very beginning, when I said, you have to have a little compassion, you have to have a little empathy. You can't just assume because you don't know what these documents mean to someone. Sometimes somebody comes in with a birth certificate and it's a child maybe that they haven't spoken to, or maybe that they lost or something. You don't know. And so I think that probably if I could pin something on a board to why I'm successful in this business, is because I do try to give everyone a little bit of compassion, a little bit of empathy. I kind of extend myself and say, let me try to help you.
Yeah, I think that's so critically important because these documents are somebody's life. And I love that you approach that attitude. And that part of this whole process, and Judy's touching on it, is when you bring your full self to your appointment in these transactions and you stay in touch with people, what you're really doing here is you're building lifetime customers. And this is what blows my mind. You know, I harp about this, about the notary side all the time, but Judi in particular demonstrates that if they needed an apostille once, there's a really good chance that they've got some stuff going on in their lives and they're going to need another one too. At the very least, they're going to know somebody who will need an apostille in the future. And Judi, you shared a statistic, a loose statistic, we'll say, but in your business,
It's loose.
It's about 60% of your customers end up being repeat customers for this, right?
And if they're not repeat, their businesses are.
Yeah.
Like we have somebody right now and he's been in 4 or 5 times and he's got a lot of work and he's bringing in his business because he likes the way we work. So, you know, when he first came in, it was a rainy Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock and he had 40 apostilles. And we were like, where did he come from? You know, but now he's a part of our office and we know him and that's what he likes to do. He likes to pop in, no appointment, and he'll come in with a great big stack of apostilles. So you want to take these people and ingratiate yourself so that they like you and they like your work and they will keep coming back. There's really no reason for them to find someone else if they're happy with what you're doing.
Right.
And can I add something in here right now?
Yeah, please.
So we didn't even talk about, but I'm going to add it in right now. that for new people on this call, I encourage you not to tell them, I'm brand new, I've never done this before. I don't know what to do. I'm going to try to find out. I'm going to do some research. I'll get back to you next week. I wouldn't do that. I would say, can I take all the facts? Can I take a bunch of information from you? And then what I'd like to do is get you a quote. And I'll get back to you in an hour or so. And then call me, call your friend, call your mentor, call someone, and walk through that first couple of calls. Because think about it. If somebody said to you, if you went to a doctor and the doctor said, well, I've never really worked on arms before, but I'll give it a shot. I'll see if I can fix your arm. But I don't know. I've probably never done that before. I'm not sure you'd be quite so comfortable using that doctor. So try and make sure, I'm not telling you not to tell the truth. I'm just saying there's a way around it, which is to get all the information and then just say, well, I need to get a quote and I will get back to you within 2 hours, and then make sure you do.
Yeah.
Make sure you do. Don't
Yeah.
say 2 hours. Don't say 2 hours and make it 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. That's, again, that goes right back to our integrity spot. And I saw Lori Ham's hand shoot up at this particular moment. Lori, you got something to
Lori's
add to
here.
that? Yeah. Hey, Lori.
Hi there. This has been wonderful, and it's been great information. One thing that I was struck by, and when you're quoting a job of more than a document or two and you're real new at it, I do think it's a really good idea to ask them to send you pictures or scans of any notarized document. The birth certificates, the official records, those are probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
But notarized documents are where most of the rejections happen. And that's a good way for you to buy a little time, is to ask them to send you those so that you can make sure that they've been notarized correctly for the state that they're going to, because the notary in one state may not, this is what you're telling the customer, a notary in one state may not know all the rules for this other state that you're working with, and you want to make sure it goes through the first time.
Great idea.
And I know that, that's kind of, pushing the elastic a little bit, because states will accept, most, as long as it's mostly right. But so many of the notarizations leave off very critical elements of the notary certificate. And if you catch it, win-win-win for everything. Plus, it's buying you some time to figure out just how big is this job? What is a fair price to quote for it? Because
Exactly.
for new people particularly, it's not, oh, I've got three notarized powers of attorney, a birth certificate, and a death certificate. And okay, one goes to this state, one goes to that state, and the 3 notarized go here. And it sounds like you're all okay until you look at it and you find out that, okay, this birth certificate is too old for Montana, so I have to get another one. So as the new Apostille agent, asking for scanned copies of the documents before you quote a price, I think could make you a little bit more comfortable with what you're doing, give you the time to think about it. You don't have to do it on the fly, and you're less likely to find yourself eating some of the expenses on it, I think.
Yeah, I love that idea, Lori. Love that.
Well, and that's what I do. I don't have to quote price, as the SOS office, it's $10 regardless. But I make them send me scans of everything before they send in the actual documents. Saves them, it saves me.
Yeah.
So that, just a thought, but this has been a really, really great presentation. You two are awesome, and you've got some great people on the call.
And
Yeah.
Lori, you were my, I didn't want to mention your name, but you were my 64% woman.
That's right. And I'm standing by those numbers.
I know you
Now,
are.
you know,
And Lori,
understand
Lori
that
could-
that's not 64% of all apostilles. But it is 64% of the notarized.
Right, and
Apostille.
Lori, could you just do one thing for me? Because I know the
Sure.
word, you and I know the word. So there's like a bunch of questions in the chat. So why are most of the documents rejected?
Almost all of them are certificate problems.
There you go.
Either, you know, missing stuff. I can't, the other thing is, and this just kills me. This is notary before you even start kind of thing. The signer hasn't signed the document, but the notary's filled out a certificate and signed it and stamped it. And, you know, you're just kind of going, I don't think so. You know, whose signature did you notarize? Because there's nothing on this document that has anybody's signature on it. So, you know, again, no, you know, and this is why I'm saying, ask for those documents to come in and really look at them, make sure they're filled out, because actually the Hague Conference rules for competent authorities, the SOS offices, say that we have to reject documents that are not properly notarized according to our state laws. So, you know, we're not rejecting them just because we're, you know, mean government bureaucrats or anything. It's because that's the terms that we've signed on to as a party to the Hague Convention.
And I want to say one thing, tie this in to if you have set their expectations correctly. If you say to a client right off the bat, this is not going to be accepted by any Secretary of State because it is notarized correctly, then you haven't said, okay, I'm going to send it up and you'll have it back on Tuesday. You're saying, we got to do something because this isn't done correctly. And it ties in with what we've been talking about, which is setting their expectations correctly. And I always say this so that when they're having dinner tonight at a restaurant, they say, I had these apostilles done, and let me tell you something, this company really knows their stuff. And we had a couple of hiccups. We had to get a few things re-notarized, but they all got done, and I highly recommend them.
Yeah. All right. That's excellent. Lori, I love the idea because a little cushion of time, especially when you're first starting out, makes such a big difference. Thank you for chiming in. I see a couple more hands too. We're not ready for Q&A yet. We just brought Lori.
Almost.
We're getting close there. We'll get there. First, we got a couple of pieces of bonus content that we wanted to touch on first. And Judi has some extra input to give your client just to go the extra mile.
Well, I just say, tell your client not to make travel arrangements or buy tickets until the documents are completed. If they already have their tickets or they have a job that they have to start, you may have to work around that with them. But if they're going to plan a wedding, tell them not to plan the wedding until they actually know that these documents are completed. There's something called force majeure. Many of you probably know what it is. Some of you may not, but force majeure is an act of God. And force majeure is a tornado, a thunderstorm, a snowstorm. All the equipment at the Secretary of State's office goes down, and it's going to be down for 2 days before they can bring it back up. So that's all comes under force majeure, and it isn't something that you can be responsible for. So on the intake form, and you will see it, there's a caveat about this. Like, we can't be held responsible for any act of force majeure. And that is very important. And it's very important for you to stand your ground on that.
Yeah, great tip there. And then we have bonus content number 2. We promised what to do when you can't answer the phone. It's just to have a system in place for this, right? There are times, there's legitimate times when you can't answer the phone. So have a system in place. And number 1, the most basic, is just to have a professional voicemail greeting. If you're just defaulting to that automated electronic message, that's not going to do the trick. If you have a yo, leave a message, that's not going to do the trick. And I'm going to tell you that I hear more of those than I do of professional voicemail greetings whenever I'm calling notaries for signing jobs across the country. So this is Not, even though it feels like common sense, it is not common practice. So if that's you right now, this is not a time to shame. It's a time to take action and change this habit. If you haven't changed your voicemail greeting, change it now. Make that commitment today. The other thing that you can do, let me go back to the voicemail greeting too, because what's the word I would use for this? If
Annoying.
the hungriest of the hungry, the ones that are out to go get it, the hustling, they want those customers. They're committed to serving more customers. They change that voicemail greeting every single day.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Thursday, April 27th. I am in the office today. I'm probably with a client. Please leave me a message and I'll call you back within an hour.
That's my affirmation for this, after this call,
What's that?
to do that.
All right.
I just made my affirmation.
I love it.
I'm so bad at that.
The other thing that you can do is you can have a pre-written text on your phone. So if a call comes in and you can't pick up, you can very quickly send a message or a text message to that number that just says, hey, I'm with a client. I'll give you a call back in a certain amount of time. The time is really important, guys. People can wait when they know how long they're going to be waiting. If it's an hour, if it's 20 minutes, whatever it is, give them a ballpark of what you think it can be to put their minds at ease. If you just ignore it and then you try to call back later, you might get them, but more than likely they're just going down the list on signingagent.com or Notary.com or 123 Notary, whatever it is. They're just going down the list, calling people. So let them make a connection and let them know how long they'd have to wait. And then here's another huge one that's getting more popular, is having an actual answering service. And this might be a paid service, but this also might be a paid partner or a spouse or a child in your household that answers the phone when you cannot. And another huge one is the online booking calendar. This, of course, gets more and more popular if you have a way for clients to book right from your website.
And
Bill,
Bill,
Judy, you have one too, right?
I do, an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a meeting, you can look down, and if it's not something that you have to take care of that moment, you don't have to. But if it's that client that called you last week and was talking about 15 apostilles, you might excuse yourself and go in the other room and return that call. It's expensive. They're not cheap. They're cheaper now than they used to be. And it's a very, everything that you do, that, as Bill's slide said, everything that you do that you can stay in touch more and more is going to help you to be successful in this business, in any business, but we're talking about this business.
Yeah, I love that, guys. So what we've done today is we've kind of gone back to basics, but still very important lessons. I love the chat. Lots of great suggestions in there. Remember that this is the time to refine. This is the time to go back. This is called Kaizen, constant, continuous improvement of your systems. Every little piece of your customer contact has the potential to build a lifetime customer. This basic phone call has a huge lasting impact. And remember that every call may not lead to a sale, but every sale starts with a call. And this is about wraps up. And Judy's got some big news for today. I can't believe she pulled this off, but she sure did.
I can't either.
It's so amazing.
Hard for me to wrap my brain around this one.
I love it, but guess what,
But,
Judy?
all right, when I set my mind to something. So I wrote a book. It's not a long book. It's a short book. And it is about a lot of the things we talked about tonight. It is going to be something you can keep at your desk or keep in your bag. And it's going to tell you a lot of the different tips that we talked about tonight. And the goal is that this year, or within the next several months, I'm going to write 9 more. And I'm going to take topics in the apostille world that I think are confusing to new apostille agents, and maybe really experienced apostille agents will enjoy this too. And I'm going to break it down into topics, and I'm going to I'm gonna work on the next one soon. So if you want it, it is available on Amazon. Bill is correct. This was kind of done within a week or 10 days. So right now, there's the QR code. And I think the whole thing on Kindle is 99 cents. And I think that you will really enjoy it. And if any of you on this call have an idea for the next topic, I already have an idea, but I like to do what you want me to do. So if any of you have an idea for the next topic, I would love to hear from you.
I love it. So guys, you can check out the book here. It's on, I put a link to it on the registration page for this very event. I just did that. So www.notarycoach.com/jitters, or you can just scan this QR code with your phone's camera. But if you want to get an idea of what that is, kind of the topics that we went over, just even in more depth in that book, she goes through even more questions that you can ask, a written form of that toothpaste theory, how to wrap up the call, the actual example of the intake form, all that good stuff, all included on there as well. If you need to get a hold of us, I just want to leave this screen up there too. You can either scan the QR codes or send email to those email addresses on there. It has been such an honor to bring this training to you tonight. We're going to open it up now to Q&A. So, Judi, you okay on time? I know it's getting late.
I've got plenty of time. I'm great.
All right, beautiful. We got some hands up, guys. Because there was so much chat activity, I'm probably not going to be able to find all the great questions in there. So if you're still on today's call, raise your hand and let's answer them. Celicia, thank you so much for your patience. How can we help?
Judy Ham from Montana said something about the age of a document. What is, we say a birth certificate, a marriage license, a death certificate. What is a proper age for a document to send into the SOS?
Want me to take that, Bill?
Yeah, Lori, you want to jump in there?
Okay, because this is probably more a Montana issue than others, but check your states. We can only do official records that have been issued within the last 5 years in Montana. It's a database issue. We don't have copies of old signatures to validate on some of these old birth certificates. So just be aware that that could be an issue. And most states that do have that kind of thing, it'll be on their website. So, check, you want to spend some time checking the websites of the states that you're going to be dealing with on these orders. Make sure you know what their specific little rules are. But for the most part, unless you're dealing with Montana, most states don't have that issue.
Great. Thank you, Lori, for clarifying that. Celicia, did that do a good job of answering your question? All right, wonderful. Thanks for being here. Hey, Joe. Thanks for being here. You want to unmute and tell us how we can help?
Yes. Judi, as per our conversation earlier, I'm about to undertake my first apostille. And this is kind of a good omen for me. This guy is somebody that I've done notarizations for in the past. I did not know this about him, but he is a Finnish citizen and his sons are American born, California born. And he wants to make a request of the authorities in that country to allow his sons to become dual citizenships in that, become citizens of that country. So he texted me earlier about making copies of the birth certificates, and I texted him back, hold off on that. So the first question is, was I right? The second question is, what happens next? Do I go to the Finnish consulate myself or direct him to it or what? So that's it.
Well, I'll just say a couple things. First of all, you never can do anything with a copy of a birth certificate. Birth
That's what I
certificates
thought.
are vital statistics documents, and so you would never do anything other than use either an original or a certified copy. As to the rest of it, let's talk in the morning.
Okay,
Because we've got a lot of questions, even up here and in the chat. And as I told you to, I'll help you. I'll walk you through it. And I'm proud of
Okay.
you because you've stuck it out, and I'm proud of you for getting that first one. The first one
Yeah,
is the
thanks.
hardest. The first one is the hardest, and after that, it gets easier and easier and easier.
Thanks, Judy.
You're welcome, Joe. My pleasure.
All right, awesome. And congratulations on that first apostille
Yep.
appointment. All
Yeah.
right. Ed Season, thanks for being here. How can we help today?
Yeah, I have a question about the timing. I got an apostille request for an power of attorney. That document was signed and notarized 15 years ago. I just want to know if that is good enough. I mean, is there any time limit? Is that my basic question?
Where was the document signed and notarized?
It was in Las Vegas.
Okay, then I think you have to check with the Las Vegas Secretary of State
Okay.
to see if they would accept something for apostille, which is 15 years old.
Okay, so that is up to the state rules, I guess.
I think you should check with them, and because as Lori said, sometimes states have different ways and sometimes states have different requirements. So that the first thing I would do is check with them to see if they would accept something that's that old.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great question. Hey, Michelle.
This Michelle?
Yeah,
Just doing
sorry.
this?
Yeah,
Hi,
we got
guys.
a couple of them. Yep. Hi.
Yeah, thanks for a great training tonight. Okay, Judy, I have a question that I think I know the answer, but I just really want to be clear.
Okay.
If you could clarify for us. If someone has a document that's already notarized and we look at it and discover that notarization was improperly done, now what? Do they get a whole new document? Do
Well,
we strike
That's a
that?
great question, Michelle. So
What happens?
sometimes, like today, we had that, and the gentleman had the document on his phone. So we printed it out for him and we started, we did it all over again.
Okay.
And then we did it correctly. Sometimes they don't. And if they don't, then sometimes they have to find the notary that did it. Because you can't have two notaries. You can't have a notary on the notarization and then someone else on the loose certificate. Sometimes you can, but as a rule, it's a good practice to follow that there should be one notary.
Okay.
But a lot of times, I would say maybe 75% of the people, and I think Diane is here somewhere, she might back me up on this, have these documents right on their phone.
Mhm.
So if they come in and they mess it up or they don't sign it correctly or whatever, a lot of them say, I kept it on my phone because I wasn't sure what to do. And so then we can print it out and do it correctly for them.
Okay,
So-
thanks.
You're welcome.
And part of the challenge
Miss
to that,
Texas. I miss Texas.
Judy, isn't part of the challenge on that sometimes it was notarized in a different state with a different person as part of that apostille process?
If
So
it's
that's
notarized, it's got to be notarized in the state in which you're trying to get it apostille.
okay.
So if you came to my house to visit me and you had a document and you asked me to apostille it while you're here, because you said like, I'm walking around with it, so can you just get it done for me while I'm in Philadelphia? Well, then I look at two things. If you brought it to me notarized and all set from Washington, then while you're in Philadelphia, I've got to get it done in Washington. But if you brought me a document and it had no signature, no notary, no nothing, say it's a power of attorney, then we could do it here and I could get it apostilled for you in Pennsylvania. If it's
Got it.
then the third thing, I guess, is, which is worth mentioning, is if it's a vital statistics document, it doesn't matter whether you're from Washington and you're here or where you are, because it's got to be apostille in the state in which you were born. So we go back to the toothpaste theory. It's
Yeah.
not just a tube of toothpaste. It's understanding these things, and as Lori said, and I guess Lori heard me say what Lori said, time and experience. That's what she always says when new notaries ask. Lori's been in several of my rooms, and when new notaries ask, how long will it take? Well, it could take as long as you want it to take, but there's nothing to substitute for time and experience. And that's how you learn how to gauge what this is, maybe what it's going to cost, whether you can do it, and you will learn as you go along.
Yeah. All right. Arlene, thank you so much for your patience. How can we help?
Hi, thank you so much for the class. It's taking away some of the jitters
Oh, good.
about this, at least understanding. One of the questions I had, because you mentioned it very early on, like about the translation and the shipping, and it started me wondering, are there other resources that while I'm learning about this, I should be looking into and collecting to have ready?
Okay.
Like shipping, translation.
Yes, and I don't want to be one of these people. I'm not here to sell anything, including my course. But if you take my course, there's a whole segment on getting ready to start your business. So there are things you should do, like setting up FedEx accounts or DHL accounts, getting things ready so that the worst thing you want to do is get busy and then you don't, nothing's done. So at a time when you're not yet real busy, if you can look at some of these things and get some of these things organized and ready, it will help you.
Okay, so in your course, you kind of go over like this, the basic things that you need to get started.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay, if Mr. Bill, would you be able to put the link for your course or that information? How would I find it?
I'm not here to sell anything tonight.
Okay,
You can go to Lawrence Institute for Notaries. Bill,
Yes.
if you want to put the link in the chat, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm grabbing it
But
right
if you
now.
don't, it's okay too, because this was really, we really both wanted to do this. Bill said to me a couple of months ago, this is the big question. People seem to feel the jitters about their first call. And I said, I get the same question all the time. And that's when we gave birth to to Jitters. He named it Jitters. I can't take credit for that. That was Bill.
it
But,
makes sense.
But it
Yeah.
and as I wrote it, it became more and more. That's when I wrote the little book that went along with it, because there was so much that I saw was here to tell people. And so I really hope that you all walk away tonight with more than you came with. I can't hope that you walk away with everything, but if you walk away with a lot more than you came with, then we've done our job.
Absolutely. And I've seen some amazing comments in there. So I think we did the trick there. I love, Judi, that you jumped on board with this training. This granular training is so important. That's why I love teaching in Notary Business Builder too, in MBB, because we get to talk about this level of stuff, even more micro sometimes. Michelle, the other Michelle in Virginia. Hi, thanks for being here. How can we help?
Hi, thank you very much. I want to attest that Judy's course is fabulous. You really need to take it.
Thank you, Michelle.
She explains everything very basically, and she breaks it down really well. The other thing that I wanted to ask is talking about putting stuff in the chat. You said earlier at the beginning that you were going to show us how to save the chat.
Yeah.
Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you for reminding me. I'm so glad you did, because I know there's a lot of great resources, a lot of great responses in there. So to save the chat, if you're on the computer, because I don't think you can do it on the phone, but if you're on the computer, you will just go down into the chat and say down at the very bottom, there's 3 dots. And when you do that, at the very top of that little box, it says save chat. Isn't that amazing? So
Yeah.
you can save everything in that chat.
Okay, will it continue to save ones that are added after I save the chat first, or do I have to continue?
No, it like
save?
freezes it. So yeah, you'd have to, but we're wrapping up here. So
Okay.
I'll give everybody a little bit of time to save that chat as we wrap up. So if there's anything else in there that's gold, you'll still get a chance to get that. So let's do it. This has been amazing. Thank you. I'm going to let Judi first wrap up and say her farewell.
Well, I just appreciate all of your nice comments that I've seen as I've been looking at the chat, and how much you all really, it's really nice to hear. And I hope, like I said, that you walk away with more than you came with, because that's the benefit of these things, is to grab a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of knowledge. And that's, you know, when I started in this business, there wasn't a Judi Lawrence. There was no one. So I had to learn by making mistakes, and I had to learn by trying to figure things out. And it's nice to have mentors and coaches and teachers and trainers and people that are willing to share with you and help you to grow and become better. And so I want to thank you. We had 250 people in this room tonight. And I want to thank you all for giving up your evening and coming to be with us. And I hope you like the book. Please let me know, drop me a text or something and let me know. And if the next book, if you have an idea for the next book, and I'm looking straight at that idea right over there. So if you have an idea for the next book, let me know what it is. I can't promise, but I can surely think about it. And there's going to be 9 more. So I'm open for suggestions.
All right. I love it. And we saw one more hand come up. Paula, you got one more question while we're here? You're on mute there, Paula. Paula, I see you, but you're on mute.
Unmute.
Oh, she can't.
She
Okay.
can't.
There we
Okay,
go.
somebody asked, I lost my train of thought. Is this a replay? Do we get a replay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Somebody asked that. I don't think it was answered. That's all I have.
Yep. No, these are, I try to record and replay every single call. So you can pretty much count on that unless I forget to hit record, which I haven't done in a couple of years. So it should be good. So, okay. So let's talk about how to save the chat, because we still see some chatter about that real quick. If you go down to the 3 dots at the very bottom, like down below where you would type a message in the chat, you'll see like a couple of little squares and a smiley face for emoji, 3 little dots. Click that. A box will open up at the very top of that box. It says save chat. This only works if you're on the computer, as far as I know. Save that chat. And there's also people in the chat right now saying, hey, send me your email address and I'll send it to you. That's the amazing love and support we have in this community. So take advantage of that, and hopefully that will get it done. So even if you can't find the chat, save chat. There are people trying to help you in the chat right now. Please take a look at that, because I'm going to try to talk a little bit slowly as I say goodbye to give you more time for that. But thank you so much, everyone. Slow motion wave by for carving out some time on a Thursday night to grow
have a
yourself
question.
and your business.
Wait a
I have-
minute.
Who's trying to, who's talking? Deborah?
Deborah. When you send the chat, where does the chat go?
Oh boy, that's a deep philosophical question.
I think it goes into your downloads, maybe.
The downloads?
It goes into your Word
Yeah.
file, like,
Word or text file, yep.
And when you get off of
Yes,
Zoom,
yeah.
I think you'll see it right away.
It
Usually
goes
Okay,
into
thank
your
you so
Finder.
much.
That was a good question. It goes into your
Only because
Finder
I've been
cabinet.
saving and saving each time, and I was like, where is it going?
It's in there somewhere, but let's,
Usually it goes to your personal folders.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
So
know
that-
where to look for, I know where to retrieve it from. Thank you so much.
yeah, and there's people posting the download in there for you too. We're making it easier for everybody. Thank you so much for everybody who stepped into that. All right, guys, have a great Thursday night. I'll see you next week. Don't
Thanks, Nick.
forget, Monday, May 1st, we have Sean Callaghy coming in for Stand Out and Stand Up, how to claim your personal power working with the legal profession. It's a
And-
totally free event, Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time.
And can I say something about Sean
Please do.
Callaghy?
Yes, please.
He is amazing. He is so amazing. He's a great speaker. He will really try not to miss it because he will really mesmerize you with the way he presents. Am I right, Bill?
Who's Sean Callaghy? He is one of America's top trial attorneys. He's one of only two that he's blind, first of all. So his organization is called Unblinded, and he has won 2 huge cases. It's over, I think, is it $1 billion in settlements? And only 2 attorneys did that in that time period. Plus, he's shared the stage with Tony Robbins 17 times. He's got a lot of value. He loves our community. They're so excited that there's so many eager, willing, and service-oriented notaries to help serve the legal profession. So that's going to be an amazing event, totally free on Monday. So go to notarycoach.com/standout, or I put it right on my homepage. It's so important. Just go to notarycoach.com and you can register for that
Check
event.
him out. He's great.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
Now you can
everyone.
go. Have a great weekend. We'll see
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Bye.
good
Good
night.
night, everyone.